Hey, this is Kiera, and we've been learning a lot about Illustrator from a very vague perspective, and it's time to really hone in the very small details that Illustrator operates on. The very first thing I usually like to teach is the layers, because it's the fundamental of how Illustrator actually works. With Illustrator, it reads information from the top layer and moves slowly down one by one. Imagine you're standing at the beach and you're looking down into the ocean. The first thing you'll see is the light blue color. Beneath it, you might spot some clearly visible fish. But as the depth of the ocean continues, you'll see less and less of the various objects. Illustrator works in the same way, where the objects placed on top are the first thing it will display, followed by the next one underneath. If the objects are not in the way of each other, you'll see both clearly. However, if one object is placed slightly on top of each other, the objects beneath it will be blocked out by the overlapping areas. Let's try a few examples to get you comfortable with this idea. So this layers.ai is available for download if you want to follow along. And once you open it, you'll be greeted with this option. Now, if something doesn't look right on your Illustrator compared to my screen, you can always go to Essentials and click Reset Essentials, and it'll go back to the default. So the first thing we should probably do is open up the Layers panel. All the panels are located in the window. So we'll click Window and open up Layers. Now let's just make this a bit larger so that everyone can see. So I have three layers at the moment. There's the logo core banner, there's a first example, and there's a second example. We can make the layers invisible just by clicking on the eye icon. Now, you'll notice that if I click on this first example and I start moving around, it's going to move around just how I want it to. However, if I go to the logo core and I want to move it, it won't. That's because there's a lock next to it, signifying that we can't move it at all. And this is very helpful if you have a lot of layers and you want some to stay in their place forever. If you don't want them to stay in their place forever, you can just click the lock symbol and you can move it just as how you want. So we're going to lock it again. So let's go to the first example, and we're going to click the small arrow on the one, and it's going to show us all the paths that are located on this layer. We can click on the eye again, and we can see the objects slowly disappearing as we move down the entire hierarchy. And there goes the pink banner. So the pink banner at the moment is located on the very bottom, and Illustrator is reading it just as it is. So Illustrator is first reading the first blue square, the second blue square, the third blue square, and you can see it because the opacity is increasing in the areas it's overlapping. And on the very bottom is the pink banner. And we still see it very clearly in the middle sections, but that's because the opacity here is turned down very low. If we click on the square and we turn it up all the way to 100%, or even let's select all the squares and turn them up to 100%, just by using the black cursor, and move it all the way to 100, you'll see that we'll no longer see the pink banner because it's on the very bottom of what Illustrator is reading to us. But when it's popping out, we still see it because nothing's blocking the layer. We'll just go Command Z to return it to the way it was. To move objects between the layers, or move the paths between the different levels, you can click the object and you can go Command and square bracket. The right square bracket moves it up. The left square bracket moves it down. And you can see it on the right hand side as this banner is slowly decreasing or slowly increasing depending on the number of times we click. So if we wanted to show us the very first thing, we'll move it all the way to the top. If we want it to be hidden by everything else, we'll move it to the very bottom. You can also do this manually by clicking on the banner and moving it all the way to the top. Or there's another way of doing it. You can go to the Object, Arrange, and Send to Back. Or you can go to Object, Arrange, and Bring to Front. These are the extremes which you can send it to. You can also do Arrange, Send to Back, Arrange, Send to Back, or Object, Arrange, Send to Back. That's going to take you a long time. That's why I really recommend just getting a hold of the shortcuts, which is again Command and square brackets. All the shortcuts will be listed beneath the video as well. And if we go to the second example, we click the arrow to minimize the layer here and open up here, we'll see that the same options exist. We can click on the pink banner, Command square bracket, and it'll slowly move up. And we can see that more of the pink banner becomes visible. Now, there's also one very curious thing you should note. You can only move objects in this hierarchy within the layer itself. So let's say that we had this pink banner, and let's make it much larger. We'll move it all the way here, and it's currently on top of every single object because the layer is on top of this layer. But let's say we want to send this pink banner to be below these blue squares on the left hand side. If we go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back, we'll see that it won't be beneath these blue squares, but will be beneath these ones. This is because you can only send objects to the very back in the very same layer they are located in. If you'll want to move this pink banner below these blue squares, you'll have to move the layer itself down below the first layer, called 1. This is why when you're creating logos, I sincerely recommend that you create 2 layers. One for the background, like we have done for the logo core, and another layer for all of your paths to be stored in. That way, if you want to move something that you thought looked good, but didn't anymore, all the way to the back or all the way to the front, you can with a few clicks. That way, you won't have to take the 1, drag it to the 2, and then take the pink banner again, and press a few more keys just to get it to the very top. It will be a time saver, and you'll stay much more organized. And then we can select everything and delete it if we want. And the layers will stay exactly as they are, just that they won't have any paths or anything in them at all.